Migration in Indian context. That is what we would be understanding today. So let's say we have a very interesting example. There was a farmer. He did a lot of efforts to teach his child, and now his child is one of the office persons. So he is now moving to another city. The farmer was based in, let's say, Punjab, and the son has got ample of degrees and qualification and was able to get a job. So he moves out to, let's say, Mumbai for the job, and he is working peacefully there. So this is a kind of migration. Now this migration we would understand is a interstate migration. The child has moved from one state to another, but this is within the national boundaries. However, now this child who has moved to Mumbai is working very hard, and he is teaching his children nicely, and finally he sees that his two of the children got placed. One was engineer, got placed in Australia. The other was doctor, got placed in Europe. Now this kind of migration is a international migration, moving outside the own territory. Now these are some of the migration patterns that occur. So simply stating, migration is moving from one place to another. It could be for a short duration for work purpose, it could be for a longer duration, but it can be over generations, as we have seen. So from father to son to grandson, and it could be over locations, from a village to a city, from a city to further metropolitan, and so on and so forth. There has been a very interesting quote, सरजमीए हिंद पर आवाम अक़वाम ए आलम के फरीक कारवां बसते गए हिंदुस्तान बढ़ता गया. तो this concept explains us how the country remains growing and people from all over the world are basically part of it. If we talk about the historical perspective, during the British period there was lot of migration. Millions of people were sent to, let's say, plantations in Mauritius, Fiji, in South Africa, as laborers or as workers in the plantation farms, and these were people mainly from the region of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, a lot of Portuguese sent people from regions of Goa, Daman, Div, and to countries like Angola, Mozambique. Similarly, French people sent people to Suriname, Reunion Island, and so on and so forth. So whenever there was colonization, the idea was to send cheap laborers to the different regions of the world where they could actually work as laborers, they could work as slaves. However, there was a wave of migration that changed later. The second wave of migration that came in focused on semi-skilled and skilled laborers rather than unskilled laborers. So the first wave of migration during the colonial period was a wave of migration that was mainly for the unskilled people, the indentured labor, and the labor was moved to various regions. The second wave talked about semi-skilled and skilled migration with workers mainly in the oil fields of West Asia and the nearby areas. The third wave came up with a migration pattern which was moving towards professionalism. So doctors, lawyers, engineers, consultants, experts in finance moved out of the region. And the fourth wave was further interesting. This was in the late 1990s, where education and knowledge driven migration started to take place. So definitely there has been a lot of change in the patterns of migration over the years that we have witnessed. If we talk about the history of migration in India, it is further interesting. Actually, the migration has been recorded from the very first census that was conducted in 1881, and this was where the data was collected based on place of birth. So definitely there was an element of migration that was taken into account. The first major modification occurred in 1961 census, where two additional component was brought into place. One was the place of residence, and this place of residence basically talked about if you are born elsewhere, if you are born in the same region or you are born elsewhere, and then you had the place of birth. This was again divided into two components, rural and urban. However, in 1971 census there was another aspect there that was indicated, and that was the last place of residence. So where was your last residence? That helped us understand the migration pattern, and the duration of the stay was again taken into account. That helped us understand whether it was a short term migration or it was a long term migration. So the place of last residence was incorporated in 1971 census. However, there were information that were driven on various parameters since 1981 census. For example, migration related questions started to come up. The question could be, is a person born in a rural area or a urban area? Whether a person has come from a rural area or a urban area. And in the census, we had two important aspects of understanding the migration. The first aspect was the place of residence. What is the actual place of residence of the person and the last known place of the residence. So it would help us understand whether the person has migrated from a place or has been there for a longer duration of the time. And the next is the place of birth. If the place of birth is different from the existing place where the person is enumerated, that means there has been a lifetime migration and the person has moved out of the region for a longer duration of time. Now, some of the interesting facts about the census. 2001 census that was conducted was across 1029 million population in India, and this brought about two interesting facts. One was that nearly 307 million people, that is 30% of the people, had a migration based on place of birth. And then we had another sort of 315 million people, which is around 31% population, that was because of the place of last residence. So that means overall we have nearly 60% of the people that are migrants in India. So 30% based on place of birth, 31% based on the place of last residence. Now, what are the various streams of migration? As we understood in the very first diagram, there could be a national or international migration. National migration can be between two villages. It can be from a urban area back to rural area. That happened during the lockdown in the pandemic. There was a trend for what is also known as the reverse migration stream. There can be urban to urban migration, where a person is moving from a smaller town to a bigger city, further to a metropolitan. So there can be urban to urban migration, or simply from one urban center to another urban center due to shift of job. And there could be the last one, rural to urban migration. Rural to urban migration is mainly for economic purpose, economic reasons, for looking for job, looking for opportunities. So these are some of the common migration patterns that we have seen. Of the 315 million people who moved out based on the place of last residence, we have seen that 98 million have changed their place of residence in last 10 years. So in last 10 years, the place of residence has been changed. That means there has been a significant migration, and 81 million have reported intrastate migration. That means they have moved, but they are within their own state. Interstate means between two states. So intrastate, that is, this 81 million people have remained in their own state, not moved out of state. Now the way of movement has been interesting. Females mainly have been attributed from rural to rural migration, and that is mainly because of marriage reasons. Males have been attributed from rural to urban migration, and that is mainly because of economic reasons or job purposes. So the migration reasons have been different. Similarly, when we talk about international migration, there could be immigration, that is moving out of the nation, or immigration, which is in, so that is moving inside the region. 2001 census has said that nearly 5 million people have migrated to India from other countries. So there has been immigration of 5 million people, of which 96% are from the neighboring country, maximum from the country of Bangladesh. Then we have Pakistan, Nepal as some of the major nations from where we have immigration, and then we also have lots of refugees from Tibet, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan moving into India, which account for nearly 1.6 million of the population. There has been immigration as well, and we say that we have nearly 20 million people in Indian diaspora, that is Indians spread and established across the country, across the world in other countries. So that is immigration. We have nearly 20 million people who are staying outside the nation. Now, what are the spatial variations in migration? There are certain states like Punjab, Haryana, Maharashtra, Gujarat, which are the states where you have the migration taking place mainly from Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. So UP and Bihar are the regions where you have out migration in an internal basis that takes place, and Punjab, Haryana, Maharashtra, Gujarat are the states where you have in migration taking place, where people are moving in the cities. Highest proportion of immigration is taking place in Maharashtra, where you have nearly 2.3 million people moving in the state. Similarly, from UP, Bihar, you have nearly 2 million to 1.7 million people moving out from these states. Also, within Mumbai, Greater Mumbai is within Maharashtra, Greater Mumbai is the region where you have the highest number of migrants in an urban agglomeration that are seen. So that is a spatial pattern. Now, whenever there is migration, there is either a push factor or a pull factor. Now, what are the push factor? Push factor could be a factors that drive you out of the region. These could be poverty, unemployment, lack of job opportunities, lack of infrastructural facilities, lack of education, lack of healthcare facilities. There could be natural disasters which could be responsible for it, earthquake, volcano, tsunami, or there could be local conflicts, there could be unstable political setup that could be responsible for out migration, and this is the push factor in migration. What are the pull factors? Definitely better opportunities for education, health, infrastructure, job opportunities. Then you have better sources of entertainment facilities and better wages that are most important pull factors under migration. So as we have studied, work and employment relation migration is commonly seen in male population. Female, the migration is mainly driven by marriage factor, and 65% of the females move out of their parental house after a marriage, and 35% of male migration occurs because of work and employment reasons. So those are some of the basic causes for migration. Now definitely, when any kind of migration takes place, there are consequences that come along with it. So what are the economic consequences? It is remittance. People from working in foreign nations send in huge remittance to their family to support the agriculture, to support the repayment of debts, for education, for infrastructure, for healthcare, for housing purpose. However, when there are remittances going on from internal migrants, that is not so great, and it is very very meager to support the family. Also, with migration, we have seen rising proportion of slums and shanty towns that have come up, and this has been caused mainly because of unregulated migration that occurs. Migration is also associated with social changes. For example, the concept of family planning, girl education moves to rural area. The idea diffuses from urban area to rural area. However, sometimes people are working in cities alone, their family is left behind in the village. This creates social distress, dejection, and mental and psychological issues. So there are social issues and social consequences that people would have to bear with it. Demography definitely changes. The rural areas are left with old people, females, and the urban areas are dominated mainly with the working population who are looking for jobs, and this creates a serious imbalance of age and sex in the demography of the region. There are environmental consequences. As we said, creation of slums, shanty towns are one of the major parameters that affect. Also, there could be unplanned growth of urban settlement. There could be air pollution pollution, sewage disposal problems, solid waste management problems, exploitation of natural resources that are related to environmental consequences. And then we do have other consequences, which is the rural area having selective out migration, which affects not only the demography but also puts an extra physical and mental pressure on the people who are left behind, mainly women and children. So they would have to look after the farms, take care of the agriculture, and this creates a lot of mental and physical stress for the people who are left behind in the villages. So those are some of the consequences that we talk about migration patterns in India. We would be covering many more interesting lectures for geography. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day ahead.